You've probably heard the Bills open the season in week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. What are some of the X factors? We're going to explore that and more today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, folks, welcome in. It's time for Herd Mentality, the weekly episode where you control our discussion. We've got some great things to dive into, including a good question about Ryan Nielsen and what the heck happened with that Jaguars defense last year, and if that should make us concerned about him having influence in Buffalo. Some development questions about Maxwell Hairston and Deion Walker. But we're going to start with several questions that start to get into this week 1 matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. We'll start with this one from Michael, who says week 1 is always interesting because it's the first experience of new things that you don't have tape on yet. We know the X factors for the Bills that Baltimore hasn't seen, and mentions year 2 of Keon and Josh Palmer on offense, Joey Bosa on defense. But the question is, what are things to watch out for from the Ravens that we didn't deal with last season? It's a good question, and I think Baltimore enters this season with a lot of continuity, especially on the offensive side of the football, and that's where I'd start. You're building off of that year 1 foundation of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield. And obviously that puts a lot of stress on a defense and makes you account for a whole lot. And so they now have a year of inventory, and now there's an offseason to build on what they did. And in terms of what's new personnel-wise, it's really just DeAndre Hopkins. And while I don't think DeAndre Hopkins will be a impact, high-volume piece of their offense, I do think he elevates the receiver core and puts them in a position to unlock more of Zay Flowers, to unlock more of Rashad Bateman, even their tight ends. And so I think that strengthens their overall offense, and it's about what they can build off of that continuity from last year. And look, this is an offense last year that scored 31 points per game, 188 rushing yards per game, 7th in the league in passing yards per game. So they have a lot to build off of. Defensively, I think they're deeper with their pass rush. They drafted Mike Green in the 2nd round. He's looking like a guy that can make a big-time impact. And then they've really upgraded their secondary, which was one of the major questions last year. You think about late in that season, they were playing a rookie in Nate Wiggins, Brandon Stevens, who's now gone, and Trey White was on the field for some of their sub-package looks. And now it's not that. They've removed Brandon Stevens and Trey White from that equation, and now it's Jair Alexander, it's Chidobe Awuzie. They drafted Malachi Starks at safety. They're a lot more versatile. They're a lot more experienced, and they're a lot better in the secondary. Not to mention, it's Nate Wiggins' 2nd season after being a first-round pick last year. Plus, they had a rookie DC last year in Zach Orr, who is now in year 2 on the job, and I thought that defense got a lot better as the season moved along. So I think highly of Baltimore. I really do. I think that they're one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the NFL. And it'll be a good battle in week 1 against the Bills, and it'll be a good race all season long for seeding when it comes to the Bills and the Ravens and some of the other top teams in the AFC. Drew says, how would you construct the roster for week 1 against the unique offense played by the Ravens? Is this the week where we need Zion Logue active to stop the run, or do we want to move away from Trey White, even if healthy, because we'll prioritize tackling over coverage at CB2? Is anyone going to make the initial 53-man roster to play the Ravens and then get replaced for week 2? It's a good question here. Some thoughts that I have would be I'd probably play Jordan Phillips or Zion Logue over Dwayne Carter. So if you want to go 5 deep with your D-tackle rotation, I would think about Phillips or Logue over Carter because I think either represents better run defending options. And with Phillips, I mean, he's a guy that's played a lot against Baltimore, played in that playoff win against Baltimore. So I'd be thinking about him if he's ready to go. And obviously that's your fifth defensive tackle. So you're not talking about a ton of snaps, maybe 10 or 15 snaps. So that'd be one thing I'd be thinking about. I'd also consider putting Michael Hoyt in Landon Jackson's uniform and hope to not get caught, do a little Bobby Valentine. You know what I'm talking about. Remember the Mets? The skipper of the Mets, Bobby Valentine, he got ejected and came back in a disguised with sunglasses and a mustache. Maybe you slide Michael Hoyt in Landon Jackson's uniform because I really wish the Bills had Michael Hoyt for this game. Kidding, obviously. But I would try to work in Dorian Williams a bit more against some of their heavy personnel groupings. Baltimore's going to put multiple backs, multiple tight ends on the field. I think Dorian Williams is a nice answer to some of that, especially with his physicality, with his speed. You're going to want that size dynamic that he brings as well. So I'll be trying to figure out ways to get Dorian Williams on the field in some sub packages. And then as far as the corner piece, I struggle with this. I mean, obviously you want to play your best one, which I think would be Trey White. But from there, I do think you make a good point about the tackling component and how important that's going to be. And so if Trey White can't go, you look at Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram, and Dorian Strong and say, yeah, which one do I trust to fit the run the best as the D-gap defender? You might want to pick that guy. So I think you're thinking about the right stuff, but I think you got to be really careful to not be drastically different. At some point, you have to be the defense that you intend to be and stay true to your rules as a defense. And so I wouldn't want to be too disruptive. You can't reinvent your defense for one game, but I do think you want to be mindful of some of those unique challenges and how you can counter them as best you possibly can. James says, now that the initial 53 is set, and you talked about the first 4 out, a big key will be to see who is inactive early in the year. Who do you see being inactive for week 1? It's a fun question, and I'll give you my official prediction on this next week when we do the final thoughts and predictions and injury update. But as of right now, this is my guess for inactives. The Bills will have 5 inactive players, and this is assuming no practice squad call-ups. I think one of Chase Lunt or Cedric Van Pran-Granger, an offensive line, will be inactive. If you believe that Cedric Van Pran-Granger could play snaps if necessary, then I think you would go with him over Lunt. But if Van Pran-Granger still needs time working back from the calf, then I think you make him inactive and you have Lunt active. But you need to have 8 offensive linemen, so one of them would be inactive. I would have Elijah Moore inactive. If Khalil Shakir is totally ready to go in the slot, I don't see a need to dress Elijah Moore. I think Curtis Samuel brings a speed dynamic that I would want in the offense. And, of course, I want Tyrell Shaver's size, versatility, special teams ability at receiver. And then I would have one of Landon Jackson or Javon Solomon inactive. And I think because it's Baltimore, I'd probably want Jackson available. He's longer, he's bigger, he's more athletic than Javon Solomon. And I want that over, the pass rush ability of Solomon that I think might be ahead of Jackson right now. So one of those two, then a corner. So one of Trey White, Dorian Strong, Jamarcus Ingram, one of those 3 should be inactive. And then Jordan Hancock at safety would be the guy to have inactive. So that's how I see that playing out in terms of inactives. But once we get a better feel for the injury picture for week 1, that'll obviously change some things. All right, coming up next, I want to talk Deion Walker, want to talk Max Hairston, and why safeties are so important for the Bills defense. We'll do that here next, folks. Be sure to stick with me. Hey, Bills fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a real hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage back. Gametime is fast and easy and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking NFL games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying, and honestly, it's just faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. All right, folks, welcome back. I'm very excited to once again be a part of the Rally on the River. The day before the Bills host the Ravens for week 1, it's a big-time party at Buffalo Riverworks. So September 6th, it's an all-day event. I'm doing a live podcast at Buffalo Riverworks. September 6th, I'm going live around 2 p.m., a little bit after 2 o'clock. I'm going live at Buffalo Riverworks. It's going to be a big day. There's so much going on. WGR is broadcasting live for 4 hours. You're going to get 2 hours of Sal Capaccio, the Mafia Boat Parade. Chalk Fest is going on. Bounce houses. There's amusement rides. So much going on. Come be part of it. Come hang out with me. I'm doing the live show at 2, but I'm going to be there for a while before and after. Want to meet you guys. Want to say hello. I love doing that. So come on by. Again, the Rally on the River, September 6th. I go live at 2. I'll be there for several hours on both sides of that. Would love to say hello and thank you for listening. And of course, have some fun with you the day before Bills Ravens. There's also going to be some Bills players there signing autographs, including one that I'm pretty excited about. So come on by. If you're looking for more details on that, go to my website, thejoemarino.com. There's an events page. You can see more details. But come on by. This was such a cool event last year. I'm honored to be back, and I would love for it to be even bigger than it was last year, if that's possible. Don't miss out on this. It's a lot of fun. September 6th, I'm going live around 2 p.m. All right, next one here comes from Bob, who says, has your opinion changed on Deion Walker? So let's talk about it. And I think this is obviously just going to be part of my story. I came out and was pretty direct about my feelings of Deion Walker as a prospect and the risks associated with the lowlights on tape, the back, the inconsistency. It was a player that I said I wish the Bills would stay away from. And so because I was so vocal about that, now I think this is just going to be a big part of the story. And when the Bills drafted Deion Walker, I expressed my thoughts, but I also said something very direct. I am rooting for Deion Walker. I want for him to be an amazing player for the Bills. He's mine now, right? This is my favorite team too. I want the players to be good. I want them to be good more than I want my scouting report to be right. All right. So can we just establish that? Because we live in this gotcha world, and it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying. Hey, gotcha, you said something wrong. Let's make sure that I can remind you of that. Well, I mean, I do 19 podcasts a week. You think I'm going to get every detail right? It's not going to happen. So, if that gets you excited to try to get me on something, all right, you do you. But the point is, I've never given an opinion ever in my podcasting career where it wasn't rooted in sound process and a defendable standpoint, right? So, look, I'm going to be wrong about stuff. And, boy, I certainly hope I am about Deion Walker. But if this is going to be like a gotcha every time he does something good, like, come on, can we just not do that? Can we just root for the guy's success as mutual Bills fans? Because that would be cool, because that's what I'm looking to do. I hope I'm wrong. I've said that multiple times. Anyways, that's not what Bob said. Bob actually asked this in a very respectful way, and I'm glad to answer the question, but I had to get that out there. Has your opinion on Deion Walker changed? Well, I'll say this. I think the best parts of Deion Walker looked great in preseason. The upper body power, his quickness, and his nose for the football. And those are things that, I highlighted those things talking about him as a prospect. It's not like I said everything about him was terrible. It was like, hey, this combination of things about him have me concerned, and I'd stay away. That's what I said. It's not like the Bills took him super high. It's a 4th-round pick. I do think that you still saw challenges with his anchor on tape. And I think one of the benefits that I probably should have been more aware of in the scouting report is how many snaps he played in Kentucky. He's playing 50, 60 snaps a game at Kentucky. It's not his game. And so being part of the rotation is going to allow him to lean more into the things that make him really good because there's not as high volume of snaps and he's not going to be worn down as much. So I really am encouraged. And here's where I'm at. Do that stuff against starters. Let's acknowledge you're talking about going up against backups for the Bears, Giants, and Bucks. All right. And he's got to continue to develop the anchor and the run defense and develop his frame, right? He's got some bad weight up top. He's got to get some lower body strength. It's all there, but I'm really encouraged for where it's trending, and I'm excited, legitimately excited. I'm rooting for it. All right. Bill says, when watching Maxwell Hairston at training camp, what stood out as his main weaknesses? Was it technique, inexperience, the Bills system, consistency, or a combination of everything? Many Bills fans are quick to compare his athletic profile and development so far to Kaiir Elam, but I'm curious to hear your more nuanced thoughts on the differences between the two. All right, so let's talk about it. First of all, I don't find Maxwell Hairston and Kaiir Elam to be similar players at all. They're really different body types. They're really different athletes from really different backgrounds. All right. I mean, the only thing that's the same about Kaiir Elam and Maxwell Hairston is that they're Bills first round corners. All right. So that's completely unfair to Maxwell Hairston to invoke Kaiir Elam. That's completely unfair. Different humans, different skill sets, different body types, really different athletic profiles, and really different backgrounds. So as far as what I saw with Maxwell Hairston, you saw a lot of very good and you saw a lot of, hey, that needs to get better. But I think what it comes down to, if I can boil it down to one thing, it's just a guy that was acclimating and needing things to slow down so he can play fast and show his true skill set. I think that's all it comes down to. A young player, right? A young football player in his first training camp where things were a little fast for him, which is 100% normal. He just needs reps. He just needs time on task. You watch him, you can see a starter. You can see an impact starter in him. But a guy that is doing it for the first time, his first, 100 or so reps in the league. So I think he's just a guy that needs reps for things to become faster for him and for him to play to his skill set. That's all it is. That's all it is. By the end of training camp, we could have been talking about, my goodness, this guy looks ready to go. We never got to that point. Completely unfair to invoke Kaiir Elam to Maxwell Hairston. Talk about having an opinion that's not rooted in good process. It's that. Ryan says, people keep saying that safeties are important to the McDermott defense. Can you please get into detail on how safeties are used in this defense and why they are so important? Well, I think you look at it two different ways. First of all, from a coverage perspective, the Bills love to disguise their intentions. So they're going to show you a picture pre-snap, and at the snap, that picture changes. And that changes based on the coverage rotation of the safeties. They'll put them in two high shells, and at the snap, one will buzz down and one will be the deep middle defender. Or they'll do inverted coverages where they line up in one spot and it gives you a pre-snap read, and then at the snap, they change and they're somewhere else. So first of all, it's that, right? So you got to be in one spot and get to landmarks that are unorthodox based on your desire to disguise coverages. And so that is important, but then you have to think about that through the lens of how that syncs up with the pass rush, right? You hear about marrying the pass rush with the coverage, and those rotations have to be really, really sound. That way it's synced up with your pass rush, because a lot of times the Bills will rush in a very intentional way to put pressure on the quarterback from a very specific spot that will force their eyes to go somewhere that is dependent on the rush getting there, but then the coverage rotation being sound. That is rooted in the safeties. So that's how it matters from a coverage perspective. And then, of course, like you situationally are going to want them to play man coverage. They have to be able to play deep zones. They have to be able to play in the box. So, right, there's a lot of different spots. They want those guys to be interchangeable. But then against the run, we know that the Bills historically present light boxes to offenses. And so you have safeties that are often playing from depth. So you have to be able to trigger and fill and play downhill from depth and fit the run. And it puts stress on their ability to be an open field tackler, because they are oftentimes going to be playing from deeper alignments. And so they have to take good angles. They have to take, good angles that they can be balanced and show up on time. So I think they're stressed from a coverage and, run defense perspective. And if they're wrong, it's tough. It's gonna mess up your defense. So structurally, a lot of it is rooted in those safeties. And so not only do they have to do a lot, but there's that interchangeability that's really important for this defense to be what it wants to be. So hopefully that answers the question. Coming up next, Curtis Samuel, the returner. What's up with Ryan Nielsen in last year with Jacksonville? Some updates to the practice squad. And I got to give a few thoughts out there on this rivalry uniform that was launched on Thursday. So we'll do all that here next. Folks, be sure to stick with me. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is behind us. College football is here. NFL season starts next week. So whether you've got your eye on a big-name quarterback or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. I've been using PrizePicks for a few seasons now. I love how simple it is. I can get a lineup set before my coffee finishes brewing. And PrizePicks always puts their members first, so withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Next one here comes from Lance, who says, why haven't the Bills tried Samuel much at kick and or punt returner? It seems like he'd have the right skill set, and he'll likely stick at the bottom of the roster with the contract. I think it's a really good question, and I wish that this was something that was on the menu for Curtis Samuel. But here's the reality. It's not just the Bills that haven't given him chances to handle return duties. It's been his entire football career. Go back to college. 0 kick returns ever at college. He had 6 punt return opportunities, and they went for 19 total yards on 6 returns, and he had 6 fair catches and 1 muff. So 12 fielded punts, 1 muffed, and 6 of them returned for 19 yards. That's not very effective. That was all in 2016, all of it. That's the only punt return he's done from Ohio State throughout his entire NFL career, which is, has been in the league for like 8 or 9 years. 6 punt returns, all in 2016. Obviously, you have multiple coaching staffs, multiple teams that said, you know what? Yeah, we're good. We don't want that guy to do that. That's got to be for a reason. In terms of kick return, never did it in college, and he had 20 kick returns in the NFL. 10 as a rookie in 2017, 10 in his second year in 2018, and that's it. So this guy has not had a return opportunity since 2018. He's not had a kick return opportunity since 2018. He's not had a punt return opportunity since 2016. Multiple teams, multiple coaching staffs, multiple levels of football. I hear you. You would think he'd have a nice skill set to do it, but there's a reason he's not given those chances, and it's not like it's a Bills thing. This has been every stop he's had. He just doesn't get those chances. So I'm guessing there's something about him that doesn't work well for that role. I wish it was, because, you look at the skill set and feel like it'd be really good. Gil has a question about Ryan Nielsen. He said, I've heard a few national podcasts and reference Mina Kimes and Nate Tice refer to how bad the Jags defense was with him as the defensive coordinator last year. Obviously less responsibility this season, but is there any concern there? I know he had previous success in New Orleans, just wanted a pulse check after preseason. Well, I hope that you watch the preseason and you can get an idea for what this Bills defense wants to be. In terms of my all 22 reviews, the film clips that I send out to our Substack and our Subtext subscribers. If you love to be part of that, go to thejoemarino.com. You can check out more of that. But one thing I tried to show was like, hey, structurally, this is a lot of what this Bills defense wants to be, where they're going to send 5-6 men rushing the passer, and they're going to play guys on an island behind it and rely on hurried throws, rely on good tackles, and rely on good plays on the ball. And it's going to be different for sure. So, I think you can see kind of the trajectory of the defense. But there's no doubt about it. The Jaguars' defense last year was a disaster, and Ryan Nielsen was a defensive coordinator. Now, you mentioned this. He was very highly regarded going into that opportunity, was terrific with the Saints. really a lot of that defensive line development there in the late 20, what do you call it? The late teens, the late 20 teens. I don't even know what you say for that. He was really good there. He went to Atlanta. There was a lot of good improvement there. And then this was his big chance to go to Jacksonville. And boy, it was terrible. The Jaguars were last in pass defense, 31st in total defense, 25th in run defense, 27th in scoring defense, 25th on third downs. They had a league low 9 takeaways, the only team in single digits. Like, they were terrible on defense. They were also a terrible football team. They didn't play good complementary football. Their offense was awful. Mac Jones started 7 games. So it just wasn't a good overall operation. So yeah, Ryan Nielsen's part of that, but I mean, it was a stink fest in Jacksonville last year. And obviously Doug Peterson was this lame duck coach. You were waiting for him to get fired like for 10 weeks. It just wasn't a good situation. I mean, structurally, the Jaguars were pretty unique. They ran man coverage 41% of the time. That's the second highest rate in the NFL. And then their best corner, Tyson Campbell, was injured and played 12 games and kind of played through some injuries, and he's an important part of that equation. They also bulked up Josh Hines-Allen. Like, he put on like 20 or 30 pounds, and he was not nearly as effective as he was in previous seasons. So I think there's a lot of layers to it, but there's no denying that defense was terrible, but there's also no denying what got him that opportunity, which is the success that he had with the Saints and with the Falcons. He only had 1 year with Atlanta, but the turnaround and the improvement was pretty significant, and that got him that opportunity with the Jaguars. So I think what you get excited about is the ideas that he brings to the table, the pedigree, how he can collaborate with the other defensive coaching, which is, of course, Bobby Babich, it's Al Holcomb, it's Mike Pellegrino, it's Sean McDermott, right? It's how does that all work together to build this Bill scheme? And so, yeah, I think you look at last year and you have a bad story to tell. You really do. But I think there's a whole lot more in the big picture. Real quick, I want to touch on a couple of newsy items. First of all, the Bills worked out 3 veteran kickers on Thursday. That has me massively concerned about Tyler Bass and, where things are with that pelvic area soreness. It's not a good path. I mean, he missed so much of training camp. This Caden Davis comes in and gets the Bills through 2 preseason games. Bass comes back for the last preseason game, misses a 26-yarder. Ball flight was goofy on probably his last 3 or 4 kicks. And the next thing you know, the Bills are working out kickers, so it's concerning for sure. Very concerning. And like, I'll be honest with you, if Tyler Bass was healthy, I don't have a lot of confidence in him right now. So when I look at kickers available right here in late August, yeah, I don't love that idea, but I'm also concerned about Tyler Bass. So get somebody in there that's got enough health, right? I mean, we knew that Bass was capped at 48 yards in that preseason game against the Bucs. So I don't love where that's headed at all. The Bills also finalized, or I guess set their 17-man practice squad. We talked about it yesterday, but officially defensive end Andre Jones and cornerback Jalen Kimber are on the practice squad. The Bills had an open spot, so they were able to get one on. Then they had to release Daquan Hardy to make room for the other spot. Hardy, disappointing. Obviously, he was drafted to be a punt returner. That didn't work out well last preseason. And then you saw the regression at corner this preseason. He was terrible against the Bucs in that preseason finale and just didn't take a step there. So he's off the practice squad. Maybe he'll come back at some point. But right now the Bills rolling with Jalen Kimber, a corner out of Penn State, was with the Titans as an undrafted free agent. And then Andre Jones, who actually spent the last 2 seasons with Washington. Real quick on the rivalry uniforms, they were released on Thursday. The Bills are wearing them in their Sunday night game against the Patriots, and I love them. I absolutely love them. I'm a big uniform guy. I care a lot about uniforms, and I really love how these came out. Now, first of all, I was very nervous. I was very afraid that they would be absolutely terrible, just terrible, and we didn't get that. We got something that I think is really, really sharp. I love the color scheme. I love the textures. There's some really cool textures, and I don't normally like textures. I think they really work for this Bills kit. You got the pattern on the shoulders that is intended to look like snow that would be on a bison, like out in the wilderness. You've seen these pictures of like a bison with snow on them. That's super cool to me. You get the frozen cracked ice on the helmet and pant stripe, which I think is a great touch. The textured buffalo on the sleeve, super cool looking. You get buffalo across the underneath the collar. The word buffalo, that's the first time that's ever been on a jersey, which is cool. I think they're clean. They're sharp. They look awesome. I can't wait to buy the merch. I won't be buying a jersey. I haven't bought a Bills jersey. The last one I bought was Marcel Darius. I went on this streak of like CJ Spiller, Marcel Darius, Marshawn Lynch, Paul Posluszny. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not buying these jerseys. So I'm not going to buy a jersey, but I can't wait to get some of the other stuff like hats and some of the tops. And for some reason, you can't buy it until September 10th, which I cannot understand. Like, I was ready to buy it yesterday, and now I got to wait till September 10th. Like, what are we doing here? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So excited for the Rivalry uniforms. I wouldn't want them all the time. Like, you have to appreciate them for what they serve as like a one-game thing, right? Like, hey, this is a one-off situation. You wouldn't want them to be your permanent kit, but as like an alternative jersey, combination, I think it really, really lands for me. So I'm excited to see this year of uniforms. You get the regular kits that they have, which are awesome. You're going to get the standing Buffalo throwbacks. You're going to get the red helmets, and you're getting the cold fronts. Come on now. Fun things are happening with the Bills uniform. So here for all of it. All right, folks. Next week, week 1. So we are going to get into our rhythm of the week. We'll start off the week next week with my stat predictions. I always do an offensive stat prediction podcast, so we'll do that early in the week. We'll do herd mentality early in the week, and then it's time for the stuff. Crossover Thursday, my game primer, my final thoughts, all the things, and, of course, Rally on the River, September 6th. Please come be part of that. Let's fill that place up and have a ton of fun hanging out, getting ready for the season together. All right, folks, that's it for today. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.